the human ship drifted into the orbit of the grand world of Lyra. It was not a warship, not a cargo ship, but a small exploration vessel named Horizon. Its silver wings caught the light of the twin suns as it slowed, preparing to dock at the palace station. For centuries, humans had searched for strong friends among the stars. Now, after years of silence, they had been called to meet the royal family of the Lyra Empire. Inside the palace, tall crystal towers sparkled, and wide halls stretched like rivers of light. Many alien nobles gathered, wearing robes that shimmered with strange colors. They all waited for one thing: the arrival of the human envoy. Whispers filled the air. Some nobles thought humans were weak. Others believed they were reckless wanderers who had no roots, no ties, no families. Few expected much from them. Among the nobles stood Princess Nira. She was different from the others. Where many aliens stood proud and loud, Nira stood quietly, her head low, her eyes soft and shy. Her pale blue skin glowed faintly under the crystal lights, and her long silver hair flowed like water down her shoulders. She was known for her kindness, but also for her silence. She rarely spoke in the court, yet she had insisted on being present to meet the human. When the gates opened, a single man stepped inside. His name was Sam. He was not tall compared to the aliens, but he walked with steady steps. His uniform was simple, carrying the insignia of Earth's exploration fleet. He did not wear armor or weapons. Instead, he carried only respect and hope. His dark eyes moved across the hall, meeting the stares of nobles who doubted him. But Sam did not falter. He knew he was not just one man, he was standing for all humans. The hall grew quiet. Nira raised her eyes for the first time and looked at him. She expected to see arrogance or fear, but instead she saw calmness. Something in her chest stirred. She wanted to speak but could not find the courage. The elder noble, Lord Varon, spoke first. His deep voice echoed. "Human, you stand before the court of Lyra. You are far from your small world. Tell us, why should we see humans as worthy of alliance?" Sam bowed his head politely. "Because humans do not come to rule. We come to share. We come to learn. We come to stand beside others, not above them." His words were simple, yet they carried weight. Some nobles frowned. Others exchanged doubtful glances. To them, it sounded weak. But Nira felt a strange warmth. She wanted to believe him. Sam's eyes briefly met hers. He gave a small smile, as if to say, "It is safe to trust me." Nira quickly looked away, her cheeks glowing faintly. Her heart began to race. Why did his words reach her so deeply? The court continued with questions. Nobles asked about human ships, about human strength, about human science. Sam answered with honesty. He did not boast of great fleets or weapons. Instead, he spoke of patience, creativity, and unity. To most of the court, this sounded unimpressive. But Nira listened closely. Each answer made her feel that humans were not empty wanderers. Yet something bothered her. Later, when the questions ended, silence stretched across the hall. Nira finally gathered her courage. Her voice was soft, almost trembling, but it reached everyone. "Envoy Sam, you speak of unity, yet you came here alone. Tell me, do humans live their lives in loneliness?" The hall stirred. Nobles whispered. It was a question none expected from the shy princess. Sam froze for a moment. He had been ready for difficult political questions, not for such a personal one. He saw the princess's eyes, large, gentle, but carrying sadness. Why sadness? Why would she think he was alone? Sam chose his words carefully. "Princess, humans may travel far, but we are never truly alone. Even when one of us stands before strangers, our people stand with us in spirit." Nira lowered her gaze. Her hands pressed together as if holding back something. but Sam noticed a faint shimmer at the corner of her eyes. Was she about to cry? The court ended soon after, but the image stayed in Sam's mind, the shy princess, looking at him as if he carried a weight she could not bear to see. Why did she care so much about whether he was alone? Why did she look hurt when she thought he might be? As the nobles left, Sam walked quietly, but he felt unsettled. He had come for alliance, yet he now carried another mystery, the gentle sadness of Princess Nira. In the crystal hall, Nira stood alone, whispering to herself, if he is truly alone, then it is too heavy for any heart. And so, their story began not with power, not with battle, but with a shy question, a hidden tear, and the silent bond of two very different souls. The palace corridors glowed with crystal light as Sam was guided to his quarters. Servants walked silently, their long robes brushing against the floor. Though the palace was beautiful, Sam's mind was not calm. He kept remembering the princess's soft voice and the question she had asked in front of the entire court. Do humans live their lives in loneliness? Her words had struck something deep in him. He had answered as best as he could, but the sadness in her eyes haunted him. Why would she care? Why did she nearly cry over the idea of human loneliness? Sam stopped near a wide window that overlooked the alien city below. Towers of crystal shone under the twin suns. The streets moved with colorful life. Yet, despite the wonder outside, his heart was not at rest. He whispered to himself, why did she look so hurt? Far away in her private garden, Princess Nira sat quietly on a stone bench. Flowers with glowing petals swayed around her, filling the air with soft light. She held her hands together tightly. Her chest felt heavy. She had not meant to show her feelings in front of everyone. Yet the sight of the human envoy standing alone had filled her with sorrow. Her maid, a kind woman named Sili, noticed her silence. Your Highness, are you unwell? Nira shook her head, though her eyes still glimmered. No, I was only thinking. Sili bowed politely and stepped back, leaving the princess alone. Nira let out a small sigh. He is strong, yet he stands alone. Why does that hurt me so much? A tear slid down her cheek before she could stop it. She quickly wiped it away, but more followed. She covered her face with her hands. To her, the thought of someone wandering the stars without family, without ties, was unbearable. Her own world had always been filled with voices, bonds, traditions, and family warmth. The idea of being truly alone frightened her, and the thought that Sam might live that way was almost too much to endure. Later that evening, Sam was invited to a private meal in a smaller chamber of the palace. He expected only a few nobles, but when he entered, he was surprised to see Princess Nira sitting quietly at the table. The chamber was lit with warm lanterns, softer than the grand hall. The food was arranged neatly, strange glowing fruits and crystal clear water. Nira's eyes lifted slowly when he entered, then quickly looked down. She seemed shy, as if unsure whether to speak. Sam bowed politely before sitting across from her. For a while, silence filled the air. Only the sound of water pouring into cups could be heard. Finally, Sam spoke gently. Princess, today, in the court, you asked me something personal. May I ask why? Nira's hands froze. She lowered her head further. I did not mean to embarrass you. You did not embarrass me, Sam said softly. But your question carried sadness. I could see it in your eyes. Why did it matter so much? For a moment, Nira said nothing. Then, slowly, she lifted her gaze. Her eyes were moist, shimmering with unfallen tears. Because I thought you were alone. And the thought hurt me. Sam felt his chest tighten. Her words were not political, not logical, but deeply human in feeling, even though she was alien. He leaned slightly forward, his voice calm. Princess, I am far from my home, but I am not truly alone. Humans may travel across the stars, but we carry the memory of our families, our people, with us. Nira blinked, her tears sliding down her pale blue cheeks. She quickly turned her face away, ashamed. I am sorry. I should not cry in front of you. Sam's heart softened. He wanted to reach out, to tell her not to hide her feelings, but he kept his hands on the table. He only said, tears are not weakness. They show that your heart is alive. Those words made her chest stir. No one in the court had ever spoken to her that way. Most nobles saw her as fragile, as a shy shadow of her stronger siblings. But this human envoy, whom she had only just met, spoke as if he truly understood. That night, after the meal, Sam returned to his quarters. His thoughts were heavy. He had come for an alliance, but he had found something unexpected, a princess whose gentle heart cared enough to cry for the loneliness she thought he carried. Meanwhile, Nira sat by her garden window, staring at the stars. She whispered softly, if he is not alone, then perhaps, humans are not as empty as the court believes. She pressed her hand against the window, as if trying to reach the stars beyond. Somewhere in her heart, a seed of trust had been planted. And though she did not yet understand why, her tears that night were not only of sadness, but also of hope. The nobles still doubted humans. The empire still questioned their worth. But in the quiet of the palace, a shy princess had begun to see something others could not, the heart behind the human envoy's steady eyes. And that small beginning was enough to change everything that would follow. The next morning, the palace halls were alive with whispers. News spread quickly about the shy princess and the human envoy sharing a private meal. Nobles gossiped in corners, their voices low but sharp. Some said the princess had shown weakness by speaking kindly to the outsider. Others claimed humans were clever tricksters, using soft words to win fragile hearts. When Sam entered the hall for the day's meeting, he felt the heavy air. The nobles no longer looked at him with curiosity, they looked at him with suspicion. Their eyes carried doubt, as if they had already judged him unworthy. At the far end of the room, Princess Nira sat quietly, her hands folded on her lap. She avoided meeting his gaze. Sam noticed her distance immediately. Something had changed. Lord Varon, the elder noble, spoke with a stern tone. Envoy Sam, it is said that humans wander the stars without anchor, without bond. You speak of unity, but where is the proof? Do you not stand here alone, without family, without a companion? Murmurs of agreement echoed through the hall. The words were sharp, aimed to wound. Sam straightened his shoulders. I do not stand alone. I represent my people. My family, my friends, my world, they live in my heart and guide my choices. A human may walk alone, but he carries many with him. But the nobles only frowned. To them, words were not enough. Princess Nero lowered her head even more. Her chest ached. She wanted to believe him, but the whispers around her filled her with doubt. She remembered his calm eyes at dinner, his gentle words about tears, but now, surrounded by her people, she feared he was only saying what she wanted to hear. When the meeting ended, Sam hoped to speak to her, but Nira quickly left the hall, her steps hurried. She disappeared into the long corridors of the palace, leaving him with unanswered questions. In her private chambers, Nira sat by her mirror, her hands trembling. Why am I doubting him? She thought. He spoke with such honesty, but what if it was only a mask? What if he truly is alone? Her heart wrestled with itself. She was not used to such feelings. She had always trusted easily, always believed in kindness. But now, the court's harsh voices rang in her ears. Humans are wanderers. Humans have no ties. Again and again, those words pushed against her belief. When her maid Sally entered, Nero whispered, Sally, do you think a human can truly carry family in his heart? Or is he only pretending to be strong? Silly hesitated, careful with her answer. Princess, I have not met many humans. But I have seen how Envoy Sam looks at you. His eyes do not lie. Perhaps he speaks truth. But the court, they will not trust easily. Nira nodded slowly, though her heart was still clouded. Meanwhile, Sam walked the palace gardens alone. His steps were heavy. He felt the distance between himself and the princess, though he did not know the full reason. He remembered her tears, her gentle words, and the sudden wall that now stood between them. He stopped beneath a tall crystal tree. Its branches sparkled like glass. He whispered, "What am I doing wrong? She believed me yesterday, but today she doubts. Is it because I came alone? Is that what they see an envoy without ties?" His chest tightened. He knew he carried a secret plan, one that would reveal the truth of humanity's bonds. But the time was not right yet. If he showed it too early, the court might dismiss it as a trick. He needed the right moment. Until then, he had to endure their doubts. Still, the thought of the princess crying again because of him was unbearable. He clenched his fists. "I will show her. I will show them all. Humans are never alone." The misunderstanding grew in the days that followed. The court whispered louder, saying the princess had been fooled by human charm. Nira, though her heart longed to trust, began to avoid Sam. She would greet him politely but keep her eyes low, her words short. Sam felt the cold distance each time. He wanted to call out, to remind her of their shared meal, of the truth in his words. But he held back, knowing that pushing too hard would only deepen the doubt. At night, Nira sat by her window, staring at the stars. Tears slipped silently down her cheeks. "Why do I care so much?" she whispered. "Why does his loneliness feel like my own?" She pressed her hand against her chest, feeling the ache inside. The misunderstanding was not just about humans and aliens, it was about two hearts trying to reach each other but blocked by shadows of doubt. The court believed humans were liars. The princess feared her heart had been tricked. And the envoy carried a secret plan he could not yet reveal. Between them, silence grew heavy. But deep inside, both Sam and Nira still held a small flame of hope that one day, truth would break through the misunderstanding. And that hope would soon be tested in ways neither of them expected. The palace days grew long and heavy. The nobles continued to watch Sam with cold eyes, and whispers followed him everywhere he walked. They doubted every word he spoke, and each time he answered with patience, they only called him clever rather than honest. Princess Nira kept her distance too. She no longer asked him soft questions, no longer looked at him with open wonder. Instead, she sat quietly in the court, her head low, her heart filled with doubt. Sam felt the wall between them grow higher with every passing day. Yet deep inside, he held on to his secret. He had not traveled across the stars only to speak words. He carried something more, something that could prove the truth of humanity's strength. But it was not time yet. He needed patience. At night, in the guest quarters of the palace, Sam gathered with his small human crew. Only 3 men and 2 women had come with him on the horizon. They were not soldiers or politicians. They were explorers, teachers, and dreamers. Together they sat around a round table, their faces lit by a soft lamp. One of them, Myra, leaned forward and whispered, "Sam, the nobles will never trust words alone. They need to see." "I know," Sam replied. His eyes were steady, though his voice was low. "That's why we prepared the plan before leaving Earth. Do you still carry the recordings?" Myra nodded and tapped a small crystal device on the table. "Every story, every message, every face. Families, children, parents, friends all waiting for us to return." Sam touched the device with his hand, his expression softening. "Good. This is what will change their hearts. They believe we are alone because they cannot see the ties we carry. But when they see this, they will understand. Humans are never alone. The crew exchanged determined nods. They all knew the risk. If the aliens saw it as a trick, the alliance would end before it began. But if they understood, then everything could change. Meanwhile, Princess Nira walked slowly through her garden. The glowing flowers swayed under the night breeze, their light soft and gentle. Yet her heart was restless. She kept thinking of the envoy. Why does his presence trouble me so? She asked herself. Why do I feel pain when I think he might be alone? Her maid Sili walked beside her and finally asked, Princess, may I speak freely? Yes, Sili, Nira answered softly. You think of the human envoy often, Sili said gently. I see it in your eyes. You want to trust him, but the words of the court hold you back. Nira stopped walking. Her hands tightened together. You are right. I want to believe him. But what if he is lying? What if he hides his true face? Sili shook her head. Sometimes, Princess, the eyes do not lie. And his eyes, when he looked at you, were not empty. Nira's cheeks warmed faintly. She quickly turned her face away. You think too much, Sili. But in her heart, she knew her maid was not wrong. The next day, the court held another gathering. This time the nobles demanded more than words. They wanted proof of human strength. Lord Varan's voice was stern. If humans are to be trusted, show us your might. Show us your fleets, your weapons, your power. Sam stood tall but calm. Power does not come only from weapons. True strength is in unity, in the ties that bind us. The nobles scoffed. They laughed quietly among themselves, shaking their heads. To them, unity was just a weak excuse for lack of power. Princess Nira sat silently, her heart torn. She wanted to defend him, but the weight of the court silenced her voice. Sam bowed respectfully, then added, if you wish for proof, you will have it. Give me time, and I will show you. The nobles frowned, but Lord Varan finally waved his hand. Very well. Show us, human. But if your proof is empty, your words will mean nothing. That evening, Sam returned to his quarters. His crew gathered around him. Myra placed the crystal device in his hand. Tomorrow, she asked. Not yet, Sam replied. The moment is close, but it must come when their doubt is strongest. Only then will truth break through. He placed the device carefully inside a case, locking it with a code. He looked at each of his crew members. Until that moment, we must endure. The court believes we are liars, and the princess doubts me. But we cannot let their whispers shake us. When the time comes, they will see what it means to be human. That night, Sam stood by the palace balcony, staring at the twin moons of Lyra. His thoughts drifted again to Nira. He remembered her soft voice, her tears, her shy question. She thought I was alone. She cried for me. I cannot let her believe that forever. Far away, in her chamber, Nira sat by her window, also staring at the moons. She pressed her hand to her chest, whispering, why does my heart hope he is telling the truth? Between them, silence stretched. But hidden beneath that silence was a plan to reveal the secret strength of humanity, a strength not of fleets or weapons, but of bonds. And soon, that plan would be tested. The great court of Lyra gathered again, but this time the mood was sharper, heavier. The nobles no longer wished to simply question the human envoy. They wanted proof that humans were more than just clever talkers. Lord Varan rose from his crystal seat, his robe glowing under the light. His voice thundered across the chamber. Envoy Sam, we have listened to your words. We have heard your claims of unity and strength. But words are air. We demand a trial. If you pass, we may believe you. If you fail, you will leave this world. The nobles murmured in agreement. Their eyes were cold, expecting the human to falter. Sam stood calmly, though inside he felt the weight of the moment. He bowed his head slightly. "What trial do you ask of me?" Lord Varon raised his hand. A vision shimmered in the air, showing a storm in space. It was no ordinary storm but a violent swirl of energy near the twin suns. Lightning of pure plasma cut across the void. Ships that entered such storms often returned broken or did not return at all. "This storm rages at the edge of our system," Varon declared. "No outsider has ever crossed it. If your small ship can pass through without breaking, then perhaps your words of human unity mean something. If not, then your people are nothing but dreamers." The court gasped. It was a dangerous demand, perhaps unfair. But the nobles nodded firmly. To them, only strength against nature proved worth. Sam's crew, standing at the side of the hall, looked at him with worried eyes. Yet Sam did not hesitate. He met Lord Varon's gaze and said simply, "We accept." Princess Nira's heart dropped. Her hands trembled in her lap. She wanted to cry out, to stop this, but her voice froze in her throat. She could only watch as the court sealed the decision. Sam would have to face the storm. That evening, as the horizon prepared for departure, Nira stood hidden behind a tall crystal pillar, watching silently. She saw Sam speak with his crew, his calm voice steady as always. She saw the way they listened to him, how they trusted him completely. Something about that trust made her chest ache. When Sam walked toward the docking bay, she finally stepped forward, her voice soft but urgent. "Envoy Sam," he stopped and turned. His eyes softened when he saw her. "Princess." She lowered her gaze, struggling to speak. "The storm, no ship has survived it. Why accept such a trial? Why risk your life?" Sam smiled gently, though his eyes carried resolve. "Because sometimes, Princess, the only way to reveal truth is to walk through fire. If we run, they will say humans are cowards. If we face it, they will see our heart." Nira's voice trembled. "But what if you do not return?" Sam stepped closer, his voice lowering. "Then at least they will know humans do not fear the impossible." For a moment, silence stretched between them. Nira's lips parted, as if she wanted to say more, but her courage failed. She lowered her head. "Please, be safe." Sam bowed slightly. "I will return." Then he left, his steady steps echoing in the crystal hall. Nira stood frozen, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. The next day, the horizon lifted from the palace dock, rising into the black sea of space. The court gathered in the great observatory, where a giant crystal wall projected the trial. Nobles watched with eager eyes, some hoping for proof, others waiting for the human's failure. The storm loomed ahead, a swirling wall of fire and lightning. Energy arcs danced across the void, tearing through space with deafening silence. Ships of the Empire had avoided it for centuries. Inside the horizon, Sam sat in the command chair. His crew moved quickly, hands steady on controls. Every person knew their role, and none wavered. "Brace for entry," Sam said calmly. The ship plunged into the storm. Lightning struck the shields, shaking the vessel violently. Alarms echoed, panels flickered, but no one panicked. Each crew member called out their readings, adjusting controls, supporting one another. "Shields at 60%. Myra shouted. "Divert power from secondary engines," another replied. Sam's voice cut through the chaos, steady as stone. "Hold course. Trust each other. We move as one." The storm roared around them. Waves of plasma slammed against the hull. For a moment, it seemed the ship would tear apart. But still the crew worked together, each action flowing into the next. Fear was there, but stronger was their unity. At last, after endless minutes, The black void opened again. The horizon burst out of the storm, battered but alive. The crew let out breaths of relief, their faces shining with exhaustion but also pride. Sam closed his eyes briefly, whispering, "We did it." In the palace observatory, the nobles were silent. Many had expected the human ship to vanish. But instead, they had seen something rare, a crew that survived not through raw power, but through trust. Princess Nero pressed her hands to her chest, her eyes filling with tears not of sorrow this time, but of wonder. She whispered softly, "They faced it together, he was not alone." Lord Varon's face hardened. He could not deny what he had seen. Yet he said nothing, for even he felt the weight of the moment. The trial was past. The human envoy had survived the storm. But for Sam, it was more than a victory. It was a step closer to revealing the hidden plan, the truth that would change the way the Empire saw humans forever. The horizon floated quietly in orbit, its hull scarred from the storm but its crew alive and proud. Sam stood on the bridge, watching the swirling lights of Lyra below. Every heartbeat reminded him of the trial they had survived, and every breath carried the weight of the next step, the reveal of humanity's true strength. Inside the palace, Princess Nero paced her chambers. The memory of the storm replayed in her mind, the way the horizon had entered the storm, the shaking, the flashes of energy, and the way the crew had worked together. Her chest ached, but her heart had begun to believe. Humans were not weak. Humans were not alone. Yet a small voice of doubt lingered. When Sam requested a private audience, Lord Varon raised an eyebrow but allowed it. Few nobles had ever been invited for private meetings, but the storm had changed everything. There was curiosity now, and even respect hidden behind formal expressions. In the private chamber, Nero waited. She sat by a wide window, her hands pressed together. Her eyes followed the twin moons, but her thoughts were elsewhere. When Sam entered, she lifted her gaze, her chest tightening. She saw him smile, calm and steady, yet her heart raced. "Princess Nero," Sam said gently. "May I show you something?" Nero nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes." Sam placed a small crystal device on the table. He tapped it, and a holographic projection filled the room. Faces appeared, families of humans back on Earth, children waving, parents smiling, friends waiting. There were messages recorded long ago, messages of hope, of trust, and of love. "These are humans," Sam said softly. "They wait for us, for our return. We may travel the stars, but we never truly leave them behind. We are never alone." Neera's eyes widened. She pressed her hands over her mouth, her lips trembling. Tears began to flow freely down her cheeks, this time not from sorrow, but from understanding. "All this time, I thought you were alone. I was wrong." Sam stepped closer, his eyes warm. "You are not wrong for feeling concern. Your heart is kind. But now you can see the bond humans carry is not only with each other, but also with all who trust them. That is why we survived the storm. That is why we can stand before your court." Nero lowered her gaze, still trembling. I did not understand. I thought you hid your loneliness. I cried because I feared for you." Sam shook his head gently. "Princess, my loneliness is not empty. It is filled with those who love and believe in me. That is the truth humans carry." She looked at him, her chest heaving. "I never realized, humans are so strong, not in power, but in heart." Sam smiled. "Strength is more than weapons. It is the bond we share, the courage to face impossible challenges, and the trust we give one another." Meanwhile, in the court, the nobles watched as the projection of Earth's families reached the chamber's crystal walls. Some murmured in surprise. Others stared silently. The images spoke louder than words, showing that humans were never truly alone, that their hearts carried more than any weapon could. Lord Varon's stern face softened slightly. Even he could not deny the truth. Sam's words were backed by evidence, not just courage, and the human envoy's calm presence made the story undeniable. In the corner, other nobles whispered. "Perhaps we misjudged them," one said quietly. "Yes," another replied. "Their strength lies not in arms, but in loyalty and unity." Back in the private chamber, Nera wiped her tears, her hands shaking with emotion. I am sorry for doubting you," she said softly. "You need not apologize," Sam replied. "Doubt is natural. Trust grows with proof. Now you have seen it." She took a deep breath and looked up at him, her pale blue eyes shining. "I never thought, someone I barely know could make me cry for hope and joy. You have changed my heart." Sam nodded gently. "And you have shown me that even a shy heart can carry great courage. That is why humans and your people can stand together. Not just as allies, but as friends." For the first time, Nera smiled freely. Her tears had dried, replaced by warmth and understanding. She realized that the princess who cried for a lonely human envoy was not weak, but brave enough to feel deeply, brave enough to forgive, and brave enough to believe. As the day ended, the palace hall seemed quieter, yet brighter. The storm of doubt had passed. Humans had proven that they were more than wanderers. They carried strength of heart, unity, and trust. And for Princess Nera, the shy alien who had once wept for a single human, the world had grown larger and warmer. The secret plan had succeeded. The truth of humanity was revealed not through words alone, but through courage, bonds, and heart. And now, the path forward was clear: trust, friendship, and a bond between two very different worlds. The princess whispered to herself, softly, as she gazed at the stars. "I understand now, you were never alone. And neither am I." The court of Lyra was silent. The projection of Earth's families had faded, but the impact remained. Nobles whispered softly among themselves, their eyes wide with surprise. Even the elder Lord Varon, who had doubted humans from the start, looked thoughtful. The proof had been undeniable: humans were not alone, and their strength came from loyalty, unity, and heart. Princess Nera stood quietly near the window of the grand hall. Her chest felt light, her hands trembling with emotion. She had cried for a human she barely knew, believing him to be lonely and vulnerable. But now she understood: Sam had never been alone. He carried his people, his home, and the bonds of all humanity with him. Her heart ached in a different way now, not from fear, but from joy. Sam stepped into the hall, his presence calm but commanding. His crew followed him, standing straight, proud. The nobles' eyes turned to him. Some bowed respectfully. Some remained silent, still processing the lesson they had witnessed. He walked slowly toward Nera. "Princess," he said softly, "you need not fear humans anymore. We are not wanderers without roots. We carry our bonds wherever we go." Nera looked up at him, her eyes shining. She gave a small nod, her voice trembling slightly. I understand now. You were never alone. And I see your heart, and your people's hearts too." Sam smiled gently. "And now, you have seen why trust matters. Why bonds are stronger than doubt." The princess stepped forward, her hands slightly shaking. She looked at him openly for the first time since their first meeting. "I am sorry, for doubting you. For thinking you were lonely, and for crying in front of the court." "You need not apologize," Sam replied. "Your tears were not weakness. They showed courage, the courage to care, to feel, to hope." A soft hush fell over the court. Nobles watched the exchange with curiosity. They had never seen a bond like this between two beings from different worlds. Here was an alien princess, shy and gentle, moved to tears by a human envoy. And here was the human, calm and steady, showing courage not with weapons, but with honesty and heart. Lord Varan finally spoke, his voice quieter than usual. Perhaps, humans are not as we believed. Their strength is in something we have not understood before. Loyalty, unity, heart. Other nobles murmured in agreement. Slowly, they began to see humans in a new light, not as outsiders or wanderers, but as allies who carried more than they appeared. Later, in a quiet part of the palace gardens, Nira and Sam walked together. The glowing flowers swayed in the soft breeze. The stars above seemed brighter, as if celebrating the bond forming below. Nira's voice was soft, almost shy. Sam, you have changed my view of your people. I never thought humans could be so united, so strong in ways beyond power. Sam looked at her, smiling. We are stronger when we trust one another. That is what carries us across the stars. And now, perhaps we can carry that trust together, as friends, as allies. Nira nodded. A small smile spread across her face. Friends, she repeated, the word feeling new but comforting. Yes. I would like that. Sam extended his hand gently. She took it, her fingers fitting naturally in his. In that simple touch, a new bond was sealed, not political, not forced, but true. They had faced misunderstanding, doubt, and danger. And now, through courage and honesty, they had found trust. Back in the Great Hall, the court held a final meeting. Sam and his crew were recognized for their bravery in the storm. The nobles spoke of a new alliance, one built not only on treaties, but on respect and understanding. Humans had proven their value, not through weapons or fleets, but through heart. Princess Nira stood at Sam's side. She addressed the court with confidence. Humans are not alone. And now we know why. Their strength is in what we cannot always see: the bonds they carry, the loyalty they show, and the courage of their hearts. The court fell silent, then slowly, nobles began to nod and murmur their agreement. The empire had witnessed something rare, the truth of humanity revealed through honesty, courage, and compassion. That evening, Nira and Sam stood on the balcony of the palace, looking at the twin moons of Lyra. The sky was calm, the stars glittering like diamonds. I never imagined, Nira said softly, that someone I barely knew could change my heart so completely. Sam smiled, looking out at the stars. It is not just me. It is all of humanity. And now, we can share that with your world. Nira nodded, feeling warmth in her chest. Yes, together. And so, under the quiet glow of alien moons and distant stars, a bond was formed between human and alien, between two worlds, and between hearts that had learned to trust. The misunderstanding was gone. The doubt was gone. What remained was respect, friendship, and hope for a future built together. And in that moment, both Nira and Sam knew, the strength of the heart could travel farther than any ship, survive any storm, and shine brighter than any star.